Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. The US President Donald Trump says he won't take part in a virtual debate with his Democratic rival Joe Biden.
No, I'm not going to waste my time on a virtual debate.
The commission deciding the format of the 15th of October debate said it would have to take place virtually after Trump was diagnosed with coronavirus. He has been treated in hospital and discharged apparently because he has no current symptoms. That's according to his doctors. Trump says he will not waste his time on the virtual debate that he says has been ordered to protect his rival. The announcement comes the day after the vice presidential debate between Democrat Kamala Harris and Republican Mike Pence. The contenders clashed early during their debate, but ended on a message of bipartisanship and civility. The policy-heavy debate stood in stark contrast to last week's chaotic debate between Trump and Biden, which was dominated by constant interruptions and personal insults.
I mean, here in America, we can disagree. We can debate vigorously, as Senator Harris and I have on this stage tonight. But when the debate is over, we come together as Americans. And that's what people do in big cities and small towns all across this country. So I just want to encourage you, Brecklin. I want to tell you that we're going to work every day to have government as good as our people.
Joe has a long-standing reputation of working across the aisle and working in a bipartisan way. And that's what he's going to do as president. Joe Biden has a history of lifting people up and fighting for their dignity.
Confirmed cases of coronavirus in Brazil have passed 5 million, with deaths in the country approaching 150,000. That's according to local officials. The country has the third highest amount of infections after only the US and India. President Jair Bolsonaro has been accused of downplaying the risks of the virus throughout the pandemic, ignoring expert advice on restrictive measures. COVID-19 has also been soaring across Europe, with countries on the continent implementing new restrictions. Italy has made it mandatory to wear face masks in public spaces across the country. Meanwhile, in Belgium, the capital Brussels, cafes and bars, but not restaurants, will remain closed for at least a month. Workers in Indonesia have protested for the third consecutive day after a new job creation law was passed this week. Thousands have taken part in strikes and demonstrations in several cities, with hundreds detained by police. Protesters have said they are worried that the so-called omnibus law will hurt both workers and the environment, but the government has said the changes are needed to help its economy, which has been strongly impacted by the pandemic. A stolen calligraphy scroll that contains stanzas of poetry handwritten by Chinese Communist leader Mao Zedong that is said to be worth millions has been found in Hong Kong. Thieves had stolen the scroll by the founder of the People's Republic of China from an art collector's home in a burglary last month. They then sold it at a fraction of its value. It was apparently cut up as the 2.8-metre long scroll was deemed too long to display. That's according to local police. The original owner has said that the artwork's value has been definitely affected. Demonstrators have poured onto the streets of Namibia's capital, Windhoek, to protest against violence towards women after the body of a woman was discovered in a shallow grave. The body of Shannon Waterfall, who went missing 6 months ago, was discovered after police were tipped off by an anonymous text message. Waterfall had dropped off her son at a friend's house before heading out to meet someone. Activists have linked her disappearance and death to gender-based violence and have called for investigations to bring those responsible to justice. The authorities in Mali have announced the release of a dozen political and military figures arrested during a coup in August. They include the former Prime Minister Boubou Cissé. The transitional government announced a new cabinet this week in which members of the junta were handed several key posts, including defence, security and national reconciliation. The West African regional bloc, ECOWAS, has lifted sanctions on Mali, acknowledging what it called notable advances towards constitutional normalisation. And finally, Britain's Prince William has launched a multi-million-pound global prize aimed at solving the world's environmental problems.
Never before.
The project, called the Earthshot Prize, will award 5 £1 million prizes each year for the next 10 years under the categories of protecting and restoring nature, cleaner air, oceans, waste reduction and climate change. The British royal family have been vocal campaigners on environmental issues for years.
So I really feel, from an emotional point of view as well, I think every parent, everyone wants to do the best for their children, and I think we have to have a decade of change, a decade of repairing the planet so that we can hand it on to the next generation and future generations and sustain the prosperity for their lives too.
And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel studios in Lagos.